Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Chris and Andre Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Chris and Andre Show. As always, we are your loyal hosts. My name is Christopher Smith, a.k.a. The Peacemaker.
I can't follow that. I'm Andre. That's all I got.
We are super glad you joined us for yet another episode of our humble little show here. So we've gotten some feedback on a lot of our different episodes. You know, like I was looking through it the other day and I'm like, man, we got some episodes with some good views on there. And some with a lot of comments. One of the comments we received, we actually talked about on a recent episode and decided that we were going to do like a full-blown like recap kind of, or I guess response to it. So on our Who Sucks More, James Gunn versus Zack Snyder video where we argued who sucked more. And I don't even remember. I'd have to go back and watch the video to see who it is that we determined. I think we might have disagreed on that one. Yeah, that makes sense because Andre, at that point at least, disliked everything about James Gunn. I'm not even sure that he's willing to give that up yet, but we'll see. Maybe. It's a teaser. It's a little teaser. Give you a little taste. Maybe you'll stick around for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, what happens?
Yeah, what happens when people stop caring about feelings and start being real? I can't even remember what the stupid tagline for the real world is. That's how old I am. But yeah, so one of the comments that we got was from Vincent Eugenio, and he basically said, I don't really understand why the guy in the middle don't appreciate Guardians of the Galaxy duology enough. And I'm sending video essay links about it made by one of the best superhero video essay writers ever, High Top Films. Obviously, John Vincent Eugenio was excluding us from that list of the best superhero video essay writers ever. And he posted links to a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and his High Top Films, The Suicide Squad video essay. To be fair, we are not really video essayists as much as we are pontificators, right?
Yeah, we don't do reviews. We're not, and there's a lot of great channels out there. If you're looking for like that's their day job, well, that's not us.
Yeah, no, that's true. Definitely not our day job. This is our little side project for fun, and definitely not for money. But if you want to send us money, my email is chris@chrisandandreshow.com. Venmo me. He did close out, John Vincent Eugenio closed out his comment with, thank me later if you understand James Gunn's writing and movies. In the video where we talked about this, I think it was the Synchrony Bank follow-up.
Yeah.
You seem to take a little bit of issue with that last comment there. We're like, oh, is that how it is? Is that what he said? Oh, well, I know what we're talking about next time. And sure enough, it was not next time, but here we are. Nonetheless.
I try to, let my yes be yes and my no be no. So how do I feel about comments? I think comments are intentional, like feedback. So you can actually kind of judge like, oh, well, we can course correct or whatever. I have a tendency to say what's on my mind. Like I have a bittersweet reaction to the my thoughts on Donald Trump Jr. because like I don't think the short gave it what I said justice, but so now I'm like in my head like, yo,
really? You're gonna blame me?
No, I'm not blaming you.
No, I'm the one that made this short, and you're like, I don't think the short did it justice. There was nothing else there. That was it. No, that was everything you said.
I'm saying purely from like just the context of it. So it's like there's no lead into it. It's just like I just want this rant.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. We did get some pushback because people were like, complaining about like that's all, and I'm like, it's literally a 60-second clip from an hour and a half long episode. Like, This
Yeah.
is meant to kind of. I try to cherry pick the little parts that I think are going to get some attention.
Picked that one, and that got attention. And I'll say this: I'm okay with the comments. Feedback doesn't hurt my feelings, and even when you talked about it, I'm like, yeah, I don't really care. I don't have a dog in that race. But I do. When I saw that the comment, I was like, huh, am I really going to just be closed-minded and not obviously John put a lot of thought into what he said. He did a little bit of legwork, so I didn't have to go. I don't like to do people's homework for them. And it just kind of made me feel like, I should definitely do that. And I will take back, and maybe you can find this part of the clip where I said I was going to come back and just rail that shit or whatever. I don't know. Okay. So
thank me later if you understand James Gunn's writing and movies.
Oh, that's what he said? Oh, I'm down. Now we have next week's episode, and I can shit all over James Gunn with ammunition. I know I said something that was a little bit spicy, and probably just because because I also didn't think about the fact that I'm going to assume English is not his first language, and it reads aggressive, or I heard it aggressively, or I read it aggressively, and I still am the guy in the middle, but now I'm not because it's Andre. But thank you. All that, and I'm not trying to take shots. I watched the High Top essays, and I will say a couple things. Number one, I did subscribe to their channel because they are very good. Number one. Number two, I don't know if it's that I dislike James Gunn. I think those particular movies, the problem that I had was not, I didn't like the theme. And I think that as I was watching the movies, and I almost watched them again this weekend just to make sure, but all the references that were made in the High Top essay reminded me of why I didn't like the movie. Like, and the story, it wasn't I don't think it was the right story. And I can't think of the right story to tell to kind of introduce the Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that story and some of the changes, like Ego, the planet. Well, let me back up. The theme I didn't like was the bad dad thing.
Okay.
And personally, like, there are times where I watch movies that there's a bad dad, and as a person has a non-existent relationship with their, like, my biological dad, like, that's just a way to describe him. He's not my dad. My stepdad raised me. My stepdad is my dad. I think I didn't like that. And I could see that theme and just and I just wasn't, I tuned out of that. And I like to think I'm a good dad to my kids. So I just didn't think that fit in that part of the human experience in a Marvel movie fit. And I wasn't interested in that. Like, I thought there was probably so many stories, but then I had to say, well, that's hypocritical, because you also enjoy the fact that Marvel touches on a lot of, like, issues, and the characters have to experience life as being a hero and being a person at the same time. I just don't want to talk about, like, daddy issues.
Which is fine.
Yeah. And so let's
get into some daddy issues. Like, I'm just sorry.
Like, so fun fact, we went to Niagara Falls a couple weeks ago, and I was talking about, I don't know what happened, but I actually referred to I actually said biological dad, right? And one of my friends was like, well, why do you have to call him that? I'm like, because he's not my dad. So, and then the next time something came up and it was related, he was a component of that story. I call him the guy that got my mom pregnant. So, and I actually said, is that better? I mean, because I don't know, like, that's a thing. I don't have daddy issues. I just, like, the unfortunate part is I have baggage in that particular area of my life. So when watching those movies, I just probably it just amplifies the things I don't like about the movie. Like I don't like Ego the Planet. First of all, the story's way off. It's not. I mean, he wasn't that, number one, and number two, it was just like a bad dad episode, and I just thought that was. I just didn't. I wasn't signing off on that. And even the Suicide Squad and High Top Films did a very good job of probably magnifying the issues that I was having with the movie. And I'm like, yeah, that's totally it. That's why I don't like the movie. I don't like let me separate it. For Suicide Squad, it's not my bag so much. I do like a lot of the superhero genre movies. I watched it because it was, it was that genre. The story in general was kind of, it fit the comics, the theme. I wasn't into it. And everybody with their, broken relationships, it just kind of like maybe subconsciously brought up things I just, I've dealt with, and I don't want to, amplify.
You don't want that stuff in your pop culture because you feel like you've dealt with that in real life. So being reminded of it in something that is essentially an escape or something that you're looking to kind of more purely enjoy,
right,
is not really what you're looking for, which I understand. I mean, like, I think, I mean, I have stuff like that too, where you sit down and you start watching something that's like about a messy divorce, right?
Right.
Not necessarily something that I'm going to be super into.
Right.
I'm somebody that is much more like, just give me some fun enjoyment. Right. Like occasionally, yeah, I can get into a more serious film. But as I've gotten a little older and my free time has become less free, it's been more like, nah, I'm looking for a diversion more than anything. And so I think and that's where with Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, like, I think I enjoyed them in part because they were so grandiose, like so operatic in scale, and that there was like still that human relatable element to it, but they weren't, like the stuff that those characters were going through weren't necessarily stuff that I had to go through in my own life. And so I didn't have that direct personal attachment, but, it was like, oh, I could see where, something like that would be, might cause this character to do X, Y, Z.
Right.
I thought one of the interesting things that High Top Films mentioned, I think it was in the first Guardians of the Galaxy video essay, and we'll link to all three of them here, so you guys can go check them out, but was talking about how James Gunn incorporates like himself into a lot of his characters. And I wonder if that played a role in like the storyline behind Ego, and, like maybe James Gunn's biological dad was a planet. I don't know. It's possible.
I think you're probably, and that's actually a good point, because when they mentioned that, as I've said before, I don't necessarily like go around going, oh, I hate that person, except for a few people, Kanye, Donald Trump Jr., all of his spawn. There's a select circle of people I really genuinely just hate. Like I'm annoyed by their existence. Kanye, I think I hate his behaviors, not his. Well, actually, that's not true. I think he's there. So I believe that James Gunn, if he's able to present those stories in a way there's that connection as a director, hey, kudos. I just didn't like the connection that he was trying to. I didn't like what dots he was connecting. And you're right. And I think, if that's how he deals with that, that's great. The reaction that I get as a person that, I wouldn't say compartmentalize, a person that finds bad fathers terrible. And I just can't co-sign what they do. yeah, I guess that's probably my visceral reaction to to that. So,
Yeah.
But it's dope, and it's a skill that he can actually. Well, I don't know if that he can actually get that reaction out of people, right?
Yeah.
I
think it does underscore his ability to tell those stories, right?
Mhm.
And like, if somebody who's dealt with that in their life watches the movies and is, kind of like turned off on them because of that, because it feels almost like too, similar, like brings up too many, like things in your history and stuff like that, then yeah, like I think that is a talent and something that like a lot of directors kind of aim for,
I remember there were a couple times when and High Top actually, I don't know how they did that, but they brought up the maturity of Quill, right?
Yeah.
But there's a couple times in the movie where I thought he was weak, like when he was arguing with, gosh, I can't think of his name, whistle guy. Gosh.
Yondu.
Yondu. I actually would be like, why are you being so weak? Right. And I remember watching the movie, and I didn't say it out loud, obviously, but I was thinking I saw that father son like thing
Dynamic. Yeah.
And I just kept saying, you're being weak. Like, you can forgive somebody, but you can't continue to bash them over the head with with what happened. And I think that led to the scene where Yondu was like, well, when I found you, you were blah, 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 and just berating him. And like, my reaction was, you're being weak. The Rocket Raccoon conversation they were having as they're looking out at the funeral. And it was just like, emotionally for me, it connected, but not in the way that I think, or maybe my experience is different than James Gunn. I just didn't enjoy it. So, yeah.
When I look back on Guardians of the Galaxy, I feel like the issue I have more with it than anything else is Chris Pratt. Like,
yeah, okay. Tell me more.
all right. So I used to be a big Chris Pratt fan back from like his Parks and Rec days, and was super excited when he got cast in the role. And I think I even said something on Facebook or something at the time when I went to watch it, like, oh, this is just like such a fun movie, just Chris Pratt doing Chris Pratt things. I think part of it is also Infinity War, where he just screws the pooch on everything.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Which obviously is not Chris Pratt. That's the character of Star-Lord, but it's really made me dislike Star-Lord and all of that. Because it's like, you selfish dumbass. Like, all you had to do was wait 5 seconds for them to get the stupid glove off, and nobody had to die. Instead, everybody had to go through 5 years of the blip. But I think I've just like, the more I've watched those films, the more I don't enjoy like him as an actor.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Like, and I'm not trying to be like mean about this. I'm not like he sucks, but it's just like I struggle to connect with him.
Right.
I guess is part of it. And I start to like nitpick more little things kind of as I've rewatched them, like his stuff with Gamora, and just, I don't know, and that's why, like, with Love and Thunder, I was so glad that it wasn't like, oh, this is a combo flick with the Guardians of the Galaxy. It was like, they're there for 5 seconds for comic relief and then gone. Because I did not want to watch
Well, that's fair. And I could see that going sideways, but I would say that there is some redeeming. So he botched it in Infinity War. He was on a redemption story part 2 with Gamora. So I would say, yeah, that
in like Endgame.
And yeah, I think he was. I think he botched it, but I think he was trying to redeem himself, right? And I kind of, and this is me just kind of like, fan fiction or whatever. I think with his send off with Thor in Love and Thunder, I think he was trying to get his bearings, right? I can just see him. The one thing I really enjoyed, and this is another thing that just kind of like his mom, right? I think his mom is his secret anchor throughout the movies, and whatever happened at the end of Guardians 2 through Endgame, to where he probably is like on this path to get his bearings back. He's starting to, see the world without that loss. Now, the reason I say that, my mom is still alive and well, but I can honestly say that the older she's gotten, especially in the last, 7 years, 5-7 years, I don't want my mom to die.
Yeah.
Right. So I can imagine what that, feels like for a kid to lose their parents so young, and just the damage, the grief that just goes throughout adulthood trying to figure things out. So I don't necessarily see him the way you see him, but I do think that I still don't like those movies. Because I just don't want to watch the train wreck again. Right. I've already experienced that, and I just don't want to revisit it. And even in full disclosure, I haven't talked to my biological dad in over 12 years because things just continuously went south. So I don't like the movies because of the theme. I do enjoy, or I can respect and appreciate now, just looking back and looking at it through somebody else's eyes. Unfortunately, it validates what I think, but I can appreciate what he was able to do. Now, the Suicide Squad, the story and the theme just didn't make sense with like 8 different characters. It was just too much for me. I'm like,
how many characters would it have made sense?
I don't know. It was always bad dad, every single, and then you carry that over to Peacemaker, right?
Yeah. Okay. But like the Suicide Squad, I didn't think they all had bad dads.
One had a bad mom.
Polka Dot Man had a bad mom, but like the rat catcher, her dad wasn't bad. I mean, like, yeah, he was Taika Waititi, so I can understand why you probably didn't like him, but no, but I mean, like, he was a good dad to her until he,
what's worse? What makes that comment even worse? Like later on, James Gunn says he wasn't ready for the movie. He Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah, but he cast him in the Suicide Squad. He's like, here, let me distract him with something. This will keep him from doing well on this project 5 years from now.
Yeah, and he literally he's talked about multiple projects. I'm like, dude, you literally had him in your movie.
Yeah. I mean, like, Harley Quinn didn't have a bad dad. She had a bad daddy.
But it goes to the
we don't know about Nanawe because
So are we really going to go out on a limb to say that bad relationships make or break a hero that turn them into a villain or a hero? I think that's a stretch, and because most of them were motivated by some type of failed relationship.
Yeah, but this is also like the Suicide Squad. Like, these people are meant to be like damaged goods.
King Shark,
right?
like, he wasn't all. I mean, I don't know. I think personally, I struggle with that. I think there are some times where, like, being a hero or a villain shouldn't have to be so tied to a loss or a failed relationship. I think that's just weird.
Okay, and I think that's fair because I do think that it's kind of like classic superhero trope, right? Like, we've seen it so many times. Is there not something that we can come up with that's a little more original, right? A little more unique. So I think that's fair. I think, what was I going to say? Because there was something else similar to that. And I completely lost it.
Deadpool?
No. Although, I mean, good call that I might want to talk about Deadpool. Crap. Oh, okay, yeah. So, like, strong female characters in TV shows and stuff like that, right? That, like, when they become these, like, empowered women, it's usually after either, like, a rape or an attempted rape or, like, some sort of assault. Like, you know, it's always basically kind of the same trope again, right? It's like we can't figure out how to make strong characters women unless this horrible thing has happened to them, that they can't be strong on their own or just naturally. And I think that they do that a lot in superhero films too, where it's like, oh, we have to have this motivation for why they do this, and it has to be something really gripping. And, you know, well, what can we do? Well, maybe they had a bad childhood. Like, okay, yeah, I mean, I think sure, that's something that a lot of people can probably relate to. Whether or not you actually, right, yeah. I mean, like, not all of us became superheroes. In fact, none of us did. Some of us still become villains, I guess. Elon Musk. But yeah, I do think it's very tropey. Like, I will absolutely give you that. And I think, especially in a film where you have that many characters, and you do see so much similarities. I mean, like, what's his name? Deathstroke? No. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Deathstrike?
Yeah, this guy. Idris Elba. Like, his dad basically, like, programmed him to be an assassin from, you know, super young. And then he's basically a terrible dad because you see Bloodsport. Thank you. Because you see the relationship with him and his daughter when she ends up, you know, coming to see him in jail, and they're like screaming at each other through, you know, the safety glass. And so I do think, like, it is a bit of that, like, perpetuating, right, the cycle and stuff like that, which is not necessarily, it isn't guaranteed, right? I mean, like, I think you're not to be like, oh, Andre's the best dad ever. But I mean, you seem, at least from what I've witnessed and experienced, like, yeah, best I have is world's best boss.
And an apron, so when I'm on the grill, so I am the best dad. So
yeah, okay, so Andre is the best dad. Yeah. And so, yeah, like, obviously it is possible, right, to not perpetuate that. But again, it's a kind of a classic movie trope where bad dads, and I mean, maybe it has something to do with directors and writers, right? Where, like, just for whatever reason, they've all had shitty parents growing up.
You're getting an English major? Ah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's studying film. What do you just sort of sit around and watch movies all day? Like, yeah, my movies, Dad. You ever watched them? You know how good I am. Yeah, I took a film class in college. It was great.
How'd that
we
go?
did sit around. We sat around and watched movies all day. It did though. I feel like gave me an ability to appreciate different stuff in films. So appreciate, like, settings and just the overall, like, artistry of some film. Not all films are done to be artistically, you know, brilliant. I think, I mean, a lot of them would like that to be the case, but yeah, it's I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a long class because we'd have to sit there and watch, like, half of a movie. I think it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours long.
But you did not become a villain because your dad and mom probably didn't agree with that, right?
No, I mean, they didn't care that I took a film class. It wasn't like I was like, I'm switching my major from business management to film. And even then, they would have been like, okay, whatever. Like, I mean, but I grew up with what I would deem to be great parents. Like, I think they, you know, I mean, they made me, didn't they?
Oh, I would say they are great parents.
In spite of that.
Yeah.
No, but, like, I had very supportive parents. I still do. Like, Both my parents they're still here. They're still supportive. They're not here. They're actually in Portugal at the moment, but visiting my sister, who they also were very supportive of, despite all of her massive shortcomings.
Whoa, shots fired.
Yeah, well, that's what my sister and I do. We make fun of each other, even though we love each other very much. If you're listening, Katie, it's good to see you. That's a weird thing to say. If you're listening, it's good to see you, even though I can't see you. And if you're listening, you can't see me either. So I winked. Wink. So yeah, I don't know. Watching so much. She's just like, this has gone off the rails. Watching so much of the like cinema sins, everything wrong with, I think has certainly made me very aware of like classic movie tropes.
Right.
And so that's one of them for sure. Like bad parents, bad, childhood, bad dad. And so, yeah, like in some ways, I think it certainly comes off as lazy in some cases, but it can also be authentic, right? Like just because it's a classic movie trope, I mean, it is also a classic movie trope for a reason, right? Because like
it works.
It works. Exactly.
But you have to tone it down or maybe depending on how you, what your association is with that trope, and that it is what it is. Like you don't want like divorce movies. I don't watch those either. Right? Been through one. It's not fun.
Yeah.
I don't watch prison movies. I don't watch war movies. And there's reasons for that. I don't find them interesting. There's some things that shouldn't be romanticized, and if there's no historical context, and if it's not the complete story, I'm definitely not watching it. Like I've watched a lot of World War II documentaries and movies that actually have the whole story, right?
Yeah, like Pearl Harbor. That was a great film. Great film. Perfect. Arguably the greatest film that's ever been made. Ben Affleck robbed for not winning an Oscar for that film.
I was doing it to try to inspire.
Sarcasm.
Yeah, there's all types of you're crazy for that. So I do want to say, just to be very, very, very explicit, John Vincent Eugenio, you're right. Those are probably, they're in the top tier of video essays, especially on the superhero genre. I will give James Gunn the credit for his ability, but to be fair, I think he could have picked better stories for the Guardians of the Galaxy. But what he produced was good. It was, I would even say, brilliant in its own way.
All right. So question for you on that, right? For the first Guardians movie, obviously there was the stuff with the Infinity Stone, and Gamora and Thanos all had to be introduced, or at least like Marvel seemed like they had a heavy hand in saying like, these are things that have to be in this movie. This is how we're going to kind of move this stuff forward. And so do you feel like there were other stories outside of that could have been incorporated into that? Did he change a whole bunch of stuff from, because I've never read any of the Guardians comics.
So I guess the best way to answer your question is, the reason why I keep saying the second one made the first one worse.
Yeah.
Is I would have stripped the Yandu like relationship. Yandu, whatever, sure.
You put some respect on his name.
He's dead. Just kidding.
Exactly. R.I.P.
Yeah. Okay. I would have probably. I would have made that. I would have gave hints in the first one and probably fleshed it out in the second one, and it probably would have in my opinion, would have gave them a better story.
Okay.
I think it was just too heavy in the first one, and you didn't really know where the story was going.
The Yondu stuff specifically, or
yeah, because it was a big overarching theme.
Yeah, because it was basically like his replacement dad.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah, I probably would have just like fleshed it out in the second one, because now you're bringing the ego thing in. I probably wouldn't have made.
Do you think that ego was a reference to how large James Gunn's ego had gotten at that point?
I think the rewrite of a Celestial was garbage. Like, yep. I think I really just didn't enjoy that at all. I think that was a miss.
And then how does that jive with the whole Eternal stuff, right? Because those were also Celestials, but right. They weren't planets themselves. They were inside of planets.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's a complexity of it. It's like, yeah, I kind of get it, but I don't, and I don't like it. But I will still concede that Marvel's trying to grow their audience. So I have to. I still, every time I watch a Marvel or any flick, I have to be like, they're trying to grow their audience. They're trying to get people engaged with their content.
Is Peter Quill's dad a Celestial in the
not.
comics?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was a lot of like.
Yeah, that seems like a. I mean, again, right? They hadn't made Eternals yet, but I mean, Marvel had to have some sense of what.
And that's where you can't nitpick too much, right? It's like, okay, yeah. But I just think that I didn't like that theme. That theme was just like in every story with Rocket, with even Groot. Everything was some type of busted familial thing.
Well, why do you say that about Groot?
I mean, he was abandoned, and Rocket had to save him, and it was just weird. I just didn't like it. I just didn't like any of it. It's just like.
Yeah, I can see that.
I wasn't enjoying that ride, basically. Like I
mean, do you think Thanos was a bad dad?
Honestly, no. I think his mission was wrong. I don't think he was a bad dad, though.
I guess it depends on which daughter we're talking about, too, because he was a total dick to Nebula.
Yeah, to Gamora, I think he was awful. I mean, he was great, but to Nebula, he was awful, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I just don't like people,
But now you got me on this whole Celestial thing. Sorry, I got to double back on this, because when they went to nowhere, that was the head of a Celestial, right?
Yeah.
So then, how can Ego be a Celestial? The head was the size of a planet, and his planet wasn't that big.
I don't know.
Now I'm finding more issues with this. We're going to flip-flop here, and you're going to be like, James Gunn, you get respect. And we'll be like, James Gunn, you suck. I like Zack Snyder better. No, I would never say that. Sorry. That's... I'm not saying Zack Snyder's never done anything good, because I did really like his cut of the Justice League. Mm-hmm. But man, Army of Darkness and Army of Thieves, his two Netflix projects that he's released so far, were so bad. So bad.
He's got this new joint that's coming out. It's kind of like let me look it up real quick so we can. Let me get my windows. Rebel Moon. Just the screenshots, and it looks dope. I think I'm going to sign up for that.
Okay.
I think he's probably more of a sci-fi guy, if I'm being honest. I can't think of. I think he's a sci-fi guy.
I mean, I guess zombies don't technically fall under sci-fi, but aren't they kind of sci-fi?
I don't know.
I guess it's like borderline sci-fi horror.
Yeah, I think it's more. To me, I think of zombies as horror. I don't think of them as sci-fi. But leave us a comment below and let us know what you think. Are zombies sci-fi, or are they horror? I mean,
we'll do a whole No, we won't.
No, we won't, because I will tune out. I'll be like, I'm good.
It's too much. It's too much tuna.
Oh, hello.
So, yeah, you can never have too much tuna. Yes, you can.
Especially if you're vegan.
Yeah. So I just don't. I think that rebel meat.
I love it when you do that. When you like start a sentence and then you start being like, huh. It's just, I don't know why it tickles my fancy so much, but it does. So leave us a comment down below if you like it when Andre starts a sentence and then goes, huh. Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. In case you ignored my previous instructions, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Oh, and don't forget to tickle that little like button. And if you have something to say, you can drop it in the comment down below. We'll see you on the next one.